Hello everyone, welcome to Dnyanadeep Academy. So this is discussion on reading comprehension part of CSAT benchmark tests. So there were total 19 questions in this particular reading comprehension part of CSAT benchmark. So we'll discuss one by one what were the answers. So now first and foremost there is question number 11 which is based on RC. Now this question is asking about with reference to the above passage, which of the following assumptions have been made. So we have to talk about the assumptions which are correct here. Now there are 4 assumptions which have been given in this particular part. First assumption is people come to the cities for the things that they do not find at their native place, right? So if you read this particular passage, it has said that people come to cities in search of employment, profit, better lives, quality education, larger market. So definitely, if people are coming to cities, so their native environment lacks all these opportunities. So this is first statement. Now, is it the assumption? Can we say this part of the argument as assumption? If you look at closely, though primarily it seems that it is the assumption which has been made, but we can clearly see if passage is saying that their native environment lack these particular things, so this is not the assumption, this is the fact which has been stated in the passage itself. Now if you go to statement 2, people primarily come to the cities for better job opportunities. Again, let us see if it is the assumption. So again we find already this has been mentioned कि people are coming to cities in search of employment or better prospects in this particular case. Okay, again this is not the assumption which has been made. Cities provide a better platform for the development of their inhabitants. Now when it comes to this particular statement, we can see this particular part. You can very well read that cities grow with their people. They are made of aspirations, dreams and opportunities. Cities, what cities are providing? Cities are providing aspirations, cities are providing your dreams, cities are providing you opportunities. So if I read this statement, cities provide a better platform for the development of their inhabitant, I can very well say based on this particular part, somewhere cities are providing better development platform for their inhabitants. Let's read another line. They offer lifestyle, the lifestyle millions aim and providing them a platform to climb up the ladder of development. Okay, so if we read these 2 lines, we can very well say that this is the assumption which has been made, that cities are providing a better platform for the development of their inhabitants, because if we read these 2 statements together, somewhere it is about the betterment or better development, but of whom? So there are 2 type of people who have been addressed in this particular part. One who are living in the cities, another who are coming to the cities, right? So whoever is living in the city, so read first line, cities grow with their people. So here we are talking about inhabitants of the city. So third statement appears to be the assumption which has been made here. Look at the 4th point. Most of the people come to the cities to give better future to their children. If I read this statement, it is saying that most of the people are coming for better future of their children. Is it the only thing? No. If I look at all these things, just see this particular part. There is employment, profit, better lives, quality education is there. Okay. So there will be some people who are coming for better opportunities for their children, or those are hoping to get better opportunities for their children. But are most of the people coming for better opportunities for their children in future? No. So this 4th part or 4th statement is not the assumption which has been made here, right? So the best one which suits in here, that is option C. So cities provide a better platform for the development of their inhabitants. Now moving on to passage 2. In this passage 2, what has been asked with reference to the above passage, which of the following could be most rational and practical implication? Okay, we have to provide most rational and practical implication. Now first statement is most of the waste is generated by the consumeristic behavior of our society, right? Let us see what this particular essay is saying. So circular economy is being addressed in this particular part, and we are talking about lesser wastage. Fine. And if I go through this particular essay or this particular passage, nowhere we find that passage is talking about the consumeristic behavior of the society. Fine. So definitely we are not just only targeting the consumeristic behavior. It may happen that there is a consumeristic behavior of the society, but is passage directly saying that there is a consumeristic behavior of the society, or whatever waste problem is there is because of consumeristic behavior of the society? Because whatever we are saying that most of the waste is generated by consumeristic, right? So if I put argument in a reverse manner, if I say कि I do not have a consumerism in our society, will there be no waste? No, there will still be some waste, right? So that is why I am not going up with this particular statement. Now second statement, people should be educated regarding traditional ethos of India. Fine. So we have to talk what is the most rational and practical implication which we can take from this particular passage. Now what this particular para is saying, look at this part. Lesser wastage is ingrained in Indian ethos, right? Now if I have to reduce waste in society, if I read this para and if I want a society with less wastage, can I say imbibing traditional ethos or educating people regarding traditional Indian ethos will be the way forward, right? So this is why I am going forward with this particular statement. Then minimalistic lifestyle is not good for economic growth, right? So if I move ahead, where I find minimalistic lifestyle, so this particular sentence is talking about minimalistic lifestyle. So these were our own ways of leading a minimalistic lifestyle generating minimum waste. Nowhere this particular passage is talking about how minimalistic lifestyle is going to result into the not good for economic growth, right? So there is no relationship which has been established in this particular part. Fine. So again, I am not going with this particular statement. Waste processing should be made compulsory across the country or world. If I take one implicit meaning, right, what we are talking about? We are talking about circular economy. The circular economy of waste management, which is the primary governing policy worldwide, has been, this particular statement if I read, it is about tenet of lesser wastage. Right? So somewhere this passage is suggesting that we should go for circular economy where we are minimizing the waste, right? So is it directly saying that we are compulsorily making waste processing all across the world? No, directly you do not find any such mentioning. But can I say that this is the practical implication from this particular passage? Yes, definitely. Because if we have lesser wastage or circular economy, that is obviously which is something good for the society. So this particular statement can be implication, right, which is rational and practical implication. Now sometimes you might get confused in this particular part if this particular statement is an implication or not. There are many ways in which you can approach this reading comprehension questions. So sometimes what you need to do, you will need to identify which are not the correct statements. Fine. So either find correct statements, but better way is to find incorrect statements. So what I have done, I have told you what is not incorrect. So these are not incorrect. I am definitely sure about this particular part. This is the implication, right? Because already we are saying that Indian ethos are talking about lesser wastage, but maybe you will get stuck at this particular question. Fine. So sometimes there will be some practical problems in reading comprehension, because you will feel that some statements are correct or some statements are not correct, right? In this particular case, we are saying that this particular statement is correct. So it's fine. It will take a little bit of practice and with that practice you will get to know what exactly a particular passage says. Fine. So these 2 and 4 is the correct answer in this particular part. So that was question number 12. Moving further, let's move to question number 13. Now question number 13 is again asking about the assumptions which has been made in this particular passage. Now let's look at the first statement. Sanitation has never been on the agenda of the government in the past, and this indicated in low growth rate of just 1%. Now if I look at the passage is accepting we have made progresses in various other sectors, but we have not progressed in the sector of sanitation, right? I'll just put you with one statement that we have grown, or we have made better achievements, or we have had better track record when it comes to other part of our social well-being. But have we been good at sanitation? No, we have not been good at sanitation. That is something which is said in this particular passage. But does this statement mean that sanitation has never been on the agenda of the government? No, this statement does not mean that sanitation has never been on the agenda of the government. Now I can put it in other way also, कि government tried to make sure that there are better sanitation facilities all across the country, but it might have happened that government has not succeeded in doing so. Okay, so that can be a possibility. So definitely this is not the assumption which has been made in this particular part. Now implementation of government schemes and initiatives are also dependent on social practices. Is this assumption correct? So yes, this assumption is correct here. Now where we have to go, look at this particular statement. The negative implication of open defecation were widely accepted at that time. So we knew whatever negative implications of open defecation are, but many acknowledged that there were also structural forces which are entrenched in our social norms, power dynamics within our social strata, and gender exclusive taboos that influence people to uptake healthy sanitation practices and private investment. Fine. So somewhere this particular statement is talking about the effect of social norms or our social behavior in general, which is going to affect the implementation part of the government scheme. So if I read this statement, definitely government tried doing something, fine, but what happened? These are the social norms which did not let that government part to succeed. So that is why I am saying कि this particular statement is a correct assumption. So what is my answer in that particular case? So for question number 13, my answer B, that 2 only is the correct assumption, is right. Moving next, let's move to question number 14. What is the most logical and crucial message conveyed through the passage? That has been asked. Now let us read statement one by one. The idea of corporate social responsibility is much wider than what we understand in the current context. Come to social responsibility, corporate social responsibility. So CSR is buzzword in the corporate world and the government. There is an impression among some, both in business and public at large, that government, by making a law forcing the corporate and the business world to spend 2% of their profit for social betterment, has gained the ground for Gandhi's idea of trusteeship, right? So CSR here has now been linked to Gandhi's idea of trusteeship. But read next statement. Okay, what was this message? What we are saying, that corporate social responsibility is much wider than what we understand. Is it the crux of the crucial message which is given in this particular passage? If I come to this particular point, somewhere I am talking about corporate social responsibility. Now I do not know exactly the scope. Is it wider in scope? But if I read this statement, Gandhi's idea is deeper. So definitely corporate social responsibility idea is not as wider as we are expecting, right? Because suddenly we are shifting towards Gandhi's idea and saying that Gandhi's idea is deeper. So this is not the message which we are trying to convey. Now people have not understood the idea of Mahatma Gandhi in the context in which has conveyed them. Certainly nowhere we have talked about this particular part. The ideas of Gandhi are much wider than what has been incorporated through the CSR. Is it the crucial message? Yes, right? So this one statement itself is enough to say that Gandhi's idea is much wider. Now look at the further part. When I move forward to that statement, Gandhi also had something to say about ethics in business. So when it comes to corporate social responsibility, it is spending your profit or 2% of your profit for better social good, right? So CSR ends there. But what is Gandhi's idea? What is Gandhi's idea? It is deeper. It is going beyond social good. Gandhi is also talking about ethics in business. Fine. He had definite ideas about how people engaged in commerce and business and should act and can contribute to nation building and forming non-violent harmonious society, right? So CSR had a very limited scope, but when it comes to Gandhi's idea, it goes beyond spending your profit for social good, right? It takes you to ethics in business. It takes you to nation building, forming non-violent harmonious society. So that is why C is the correct answer in this particular case. Moving next, rather read statement D. Gandhiji's idea help us to live within our means and act as trustees for the resource to be shared with others. So nowhere this particular part has been reflected in the passage, so it is incorrect. Question number 15. Now in question number 15, with reference to the passage above, the following assumptions have been made. Again, we have to find assumptions. Business should pay back to the society in the form of CSR to help the people and contribute in nation building. Is that the assumption which has been made in this particular para? Yes. If you look at, there is some idea of CSR, and people time and again have taken that idea to the idea of Gandhi, because there is a comparison between the idea of CSR and the trusteeship idea of Gandhi. Fine. So somewhere we are expecting something more, right? Not just spending of profit. We are also expecting that there is something which is being done on the lines of Gandhiji's idea, right? So that is why this particular statement can be said that it is the assumption which has been made. Now, business should do CSR as there is no significant way in which they can contribute to society. Absolutely not. Look at Gandhi's idea again, right? Gandhi's idea is beyond CSR. So CSR is not the only way. There are more significant ways in which businesses can contribute to society. CSR is a system to implement Gandhiji's idea of trusteeship in letter and spirit to ensure harmonious development. Again, this is not the assumption. Look at the passage. What passage is comparing? Okay, passage is comparing the idea of CSR and the idea of Gandhiji's trusteeship, and nowhere passage is expecting that this CSR should replicate Gandhiji's idea. Passage itself is saying that CSR is not going to match with the idea of Gandhi. So that is why this is also not the assumption which I am going forward with. So my answer 1 only is the correct answer. Moving to next passage. India's rise as an rise in an opportunity and reimagining. So this is regarding some ideals and our role in overall world economy and world power. So first question number 16, which of the following best reflects the critical message of the passage? Fine. So if I have to talk about the critical message of the passage, see what I'm going to do in this particular part, or what you are supposed to do in reading comprehension. If I read all these statements one by one, in 3 statements you will find one word common: superpower, superpower and superpower. If I read this paragraph, nowhere this paragraph uses word superpower, right? So like sometimes in reading comprehension, even if you do not know a lot of things, just see which words, which ideas are not mentioned or used there. Now if you read passage, somewhere you get a sense like we are talking about power, but is this passage directly saying that India wants to be a superpower, right? Or India as a superpower? No, nowhere this particular passage is saying that India wants to be a superpower or India as superpower. So definitely, if I go by that logic, so India is destined to lead the world and she will be a superpower. See, somewhere if I say only this much part of the statement that India is destined to lead the world, that could have been correct, fine, but is she will be a superpower? Nowhere this passage says that India will be a superpower. Look at the option B. India's opportunity lies in balancing the past and the present. These two words are very important, right? So where is our opportunity? We have to take something from past and balance it with present. Look at the message. First statement. Reimagine an India in consonance with our highest civilizational ideals. So this is something we are taking from past. Now we are reimagining India in consonance with this past. So that is how we are taking past and present, right? So there is a balance between past and present. Now India has to play a balancing role. Yes, India has to play a balancing role, but nowhere again we have mentioned superpower. India's opportunity to become superpower, nowhere we say that there is an opportunity for India to be a superpower. So that was about this particular passage. Moving to next question. So with reference to the above passage, the following assumptions have been made. Other countries of the world are not in position to solve the problems that we see in the world. Again, where it has said that no other country is in a position to solve the problem. Okay? It is saying that India is in a position, or India is one of the important force to solve the problems. But can no other country solve these problems? Nowhere it is saying. So always remember, these type of negative tonality, or if a statement has such a negative tone, definitely it is not going to be correct. Fine. Now India is the only country with rich past. Again I go to this particular point where this assumption has been made that India is the only country with rich past. No, this is incorrect again. Okay, so option D, neither 1 or 2. There is question number 32. Read question number 32. Again we have to talk about the assumptions which have not been made, right? We do not have to talk about the assumptions which have been made. We are now talking about what assumptions are not made here. Now I'll go ulta. Fine. So an increase in the number of bird species in and around cities is desirable. Is that the assumption which has been reflected in passage? Yes. The passage is saying, see, once air pollution has got reduced, what has happened? There has been a dramatic increase in the number of bird species which are seen in the city. Okay. So that is desirable, right? That is what we are saying, and increasing the number of bird species in and around city is desirable. That is why we are talking about that subject. Next, the air pollution problem of other major cities are basically similar to ones suffered by London. Actually, this is a printing error. This should be NCR. Fine. So the air pollution problem of other major cities are basically similar to the ones suffered by NCR. Look at this particular point. Similar air pollution rules should be imposed in other major cities. Different. Why should we implement similar pollution rules? Just because air pollution problems of the other cities are similar to NCR, right? So this is also a correct assumption. Air pollution regulation on industry have a significant impact on the quality of air. That is why whole of the discussion is going on. Okay. Now, in most major cities, air pollution problems are caused by entirely by local industry. Look at this word, almost entirely. Nowhere this particular statement or passage is saying that air pollution problems are caused by almost entire local industry. Okay, there is a statement in the recent years NCR imposed strict regulations on local industry, but is all of these problems caused by local industry? No. Can we say almost entirely it is caused by local industry? Definitely not, right? So these three assumptions are correct. This is not the assumption we are going to make in this particular part. Moving further, we have 33. Which of the following is the most logical and rational inference that can be made from the passage? Okay, which is the most logical and rational inference? So first statement, it is possible to reduce the emission of greenhouse gases and reverse climate change caused by global warming. Fine. So here somewhere we are talking about greenhouse gas footprint needs to be in balance with sequestration of carbon to sustain ecosystem functions. Forests are the major carbon sinks that aid in mitigation of global warming. So, is it possible to reduce the emission of GHGs? Yes, definitely we are talking about this particular part, right? And reverse climate change caused by global warming? Again, yes. Why? Because if we are taking these many efforts, definitely we are taking it in the hope of reducing or reversing the problem of climate change. So this particular statement I'll be going with. Now the climate change is primarily, look at this word, primarily caused by human greed and consumerism prevalent in the society. Nowhere in this particular section we are talking about human greed or consumerism. At best, what I have, anthropogenic activity. Everywhere what we have blamed anthropogenic activity, but have we blamed human greed? No, we have not blamed human greed. Have we blamed consumerism? No, nowhere we are saying that it is because of human greed or consumerism. Now this is not going to be my logical inference here. The kind of climate change and global warming that we see today is primarily caused by human interventions. Yes, this is something I can go. We are talking about human intervention. So what is the difference between these two statements? Just look at these two statements. Here we are talking about human greed and consumerism. Okay, again, primarily word is here also. But if I compare these two statements, primarily human greed and consumerism and primarily human intervention. So I have this particular statement which is better, right? Because here we are talking about anthropogenic activity. So definitely this anthropogenic activity more relate to primarily caused by human intervention. If I say human greed, consumerism, it has no mention in this particular part. That is why option C is the correct answer. Okay, moving next, question number 34. In 34, we have been asked which of the following best captures the central idea of the passage. Okay, so let us see what all we have. People who can distinguish their arguments from their emotions are generally more fervent in defending them. Fine. So what we are saying is people who can distinguish their arguments from their emotions are generally more fervent in defending them. So nowhere this particular passage is talking about that people are who is better at defending their themselves, right? So certainly this is something which we are not going ahead with. We should only accept arguments that incorporate both emotion and logic. Though passage is talking about the arguments which are coming from logic or implicitly coming from logic or emotion, it is talking about that. But is it saying that we should accept arguments only when they are emotional and logical? No, nowhere we are saying that we should do that. Further, while the belief based on logical reasoning can be corrected, it is very difficult to change beliefs founded on emotion. So this is the message which I can take from this particular statement. Why? Because here you can read this particular part. When arguments solely are based on feelings, worse it fares in argumentative context. Okay? The more persuaded adherents are that their feeling must have some deeper grounds and which the arguments do not reach. Okay? So while the feeling remains, this is important, feeling remains, it is always throwing up fresh entrenchment of arguments to repair any breach made in the old. So whatever argument which is coming from the feeling, so it will continue to come up, right, in different formats. So that is what this particular statement is saying, ki if a belief which is based on logical reasoning, it can be corrected, but if it is based on emotion, it cannot be corrected, right? Because that emotion is deep and there is a reluctance when it comes to changing that emotions. So it will be reflected in most of our arguments. People who argue from an emotional basis rarely change their opinions of those who make logical arguments. So here again we are not talking about the relation between people who are making emotional argument or people making logical arguments. So if we read this statement, it is between these two people. Okay, so nowhere we are saying that we have a debate between these two people or these two people are judging each other. So no, that kind of inference has been made. So option C is the correct here. Further, with reference to the passage, which of the following can be inferred? So if you read this particular passage, I'll go ulta again. So different countries choose different models of development. For this they use different tools. Okay, so nowhere we are talking about models of development and tools of development. If you look at this passage simply says ki see, there is something called as science and technology. Okay, so development can come from science and technology and we have to use science and technology very well, then only development will come. Okay, so it is not ki just we have science and technology and development will come. So if I read this particular statement, it is nowhere talking about models of development or the tools of development. See, science and technology has been the bedrock of growth of civilization and those who lead in science and technology lead the world. Look at the example given for Middle East. It is saying that they are using sophisticated technology, but are they leading the world? No, definitely not. Those countries where due attention is paid on research and development will be at the forefront to lead the world. Nowhere again this particular statement has been made. Countries of Middle East couldn't use their national resources for their economic and social development as they lacked understanding of technology. Read this particular part. The witness the state of development and social structure of countries of the Middle East, where decades resources of oil have been exploited with the most sophisticated technology, right? So there have been use of most sophisticated technology in this particular part, but history has demonstrated that real social and economic fruits of technology goes to those who apply through the understanding, right? So here we have said that these Middle Eastern countries did not go for social or enough social or economic development despite using sophisticated technology. But why they did not? Because they lacked understanding. That is what statement A is saying. Now the world has witnessed myriad of scientific and technological advancement, and it then further talks about the human rights. Okay, and finally we have some discussion on fundamental freedom and all. Let us see what questions are there. Which of the following statement best implies the crux of the message? For 36, the definition of a human right is not fixed and it keeps evolving with time. So is it the crux? That is that something we are talking about in this particular passage? Definitely it is not the only thing which we are talking about when it comes to human rights. So there is mention, okay? So if you read this particular point, you will somewhere see कि human rights are evolving in nature, okay? So this though statement to an extent is correct, but is it the crux? No, this is not the only thing we are talking about this particular passage. It is the purpose of the state to ensure that everyone gets freedom to enjoy their human rights. Now if you look at the passage, nowhere we are referring to state. Fine, so there is no reference of state. That is why this is also not right. Enabling human rights help the people to become more human and achieve their full potential. Did this particular point, human rights and fundamental freedoms allows us to fully develop and use our human qualities, right? So somewhere this is correct. But then if I go back to the previous part of the passage, this whole of the passage is bringing us to this particular point only. In the earlier part, we are talking about in the pursuit, it has forgotten that no development is sustainable if it does not respect and honor human rights of the people. Okay, so there is a link between development and human rights which is given in this particular part. Though after that we have said that there is evolution and all of human rights, but again all this argument has built to come to this particular point, and that is why option C is the correct option here. So science and technology can be used to ensure development, thereby bestowing human rights to everyone. In first para we said the world has witnessed myriad of science and technological advancement in its journey of development, but nowhere we have said that it is the science and technology which can be used to ensure development, and rather we have said this particular part, but is it connecting to human rights for everyone? Nowhere science and technology has been further linked to the human rights part. Okay, so option C, 36, option C is the correct answer. So let us discuss question number 51. So it is asking what is the most logical and rational inference that can be made from the passage. So again I'll go ulta. Digitization first entered the government system and over a period of industry accepted it as an integral part. So if you read the passage, it is saying that digitization came in, but it was an initial slow process and after that it took pace. Nowhere this particular passage is saying that government was the first one where digitization entered, right? So there has been no reference to this particular part. Digitization will help the growing economies to grow at a faster pace, and this will bring enhanced value to everyone. Again, nowhere in the passage you will find that there has been such a suggestion, right? So whatever we are talking in this particular passage, that how digitization moved at a faster pace in later stage, and this process of digitization resulted into social and economic opportunities or renovations. Okay, now if I read this statement that digitization helped growing economies to grow faster, that is something which has not said here. If you read this particular part, India, the fastest growing economy in the world, has undergone complete transformation with the rapid uptake of digital technologies. That is true, we are going at a faster pace and we also have undergone transformation, but can I say that because of technological advancements our economy is growing faster? No, nowhere we can establish that particular relation. Now digitization has severely impacted social life of individual as the social circles has increased. Nowhere we have mentioned to this particular part. Digitization has impacted life of all of us in one way or the another, and it is bound to increase. Now if I read the passage, first part, digitization as a phenomenon had onset long ago, but pace was gradual and later on Early digital initiatives were mainly to preserve, record, create, house, so on and so forth. It is over the last few years, digital revolution has opened a whole new vista of opportunities, reshaping the scope of development. So somewhere this particular statement I can bring in here, right? With based on that statement, I can say कि हाँ, digitization is somewhere affecting life. Now read the last statement. It has had profound impact on the way people interact with each other, express their feelings, share ideas, and manage their health and fitness. Okay, so we are talking about our relations, our health, our fitness. So what we are saying here, digitization has impacted our life not in one way but myriad of ways, right? That is why we are saying that this is the most logical or rational inference which I can take from the passage. Moving to question number 52. Look at the question number 52. Most logical and rational inference which I have to make from the passage. So if I go one by one, health is the right of an individual and government is focusing on Swachh Bharat mission to implement the same. Again, nowhere we are saying that government is implementing Swachh Bharat mission to implement health as a right. Okay, so it is again regarding how this Swachh or sanitation issue, hygiene and sanitation issue is reflected in economy and health. It is talking about that. It is not talking about health as a right. Investment in health and wellness of an individual brings benefits to the economy. Agreed. Okay, so if I do not use word recurring here, I can simply say, because according to the World Bank, India loses 6.4% of GDP annually because of this particular thing. So definitely I can say that if I work on investment in health and wellness, I can have benefits for my economy. But the word recurring benefit is something which is making this argument to not correct. Now, in order to maintain the economic growth and reduce losses to the GDP, investment in health and sanitation is required. Obviously, we have said this particular thing in the earlier part, and Mahatma Gandhi wanted to make India clean and open defecation free. Nowhere like we are saying that Mahatma Gandhi wanted this to happen. We are just saying that we had to make India open defecation free by 2019. That was the 150th birth anniversary of Mahatma Gandhi as tribute. So nowhere we said that Mahatma Gandhi has suggested and told us to focus on health and sanitation. With reference to above passage, assumptions which have been made. Health of the citizen was neglected by the previous government. Again, we are not talking about what previous government did. Health is the most important factor to increase productivity of life of people. Health is one of the factor which will result in productivity, right? But is it the most important factor? Anywhere did we say that health is the only factor which is going to increase the productivity of people? No, again we did not say that. So option D, neither 1 nor 2 is the correct answer. Question number 54. Now in 54, it is asking what are the assumptions which have been made. First is, it is not easy to handle problems of Indian economy as they are multifaceted in nature. So read the first statement. Indian economy has very unique characteristics, and then it has described what all we have in here. Even if I go through whole of the passage, I will find that the nature of Indian economy is multifaceted, and somewhere we are also talking about the challenges which we are facing with such a multifaceted nature of economy. And that is why I'll say that really it is not easy to handle the problem, because I have to make assumption. If I read the tone of this message, I definitely say this can be the assumption. Next, the quality of employment in terms of value creation is better in non-agriculture employment against agriculture in village and small towns. Now, when I come to this particular statement, there can be difference of opinion. See, if I read a certain part of the message, read this part, while agriculture still accounts for bulk of employment in India, the non-agricultural employment like SME, processing, repairing, construction and other services in villages and rural towns accounts for significant proportion of income of rural households. Okay. Next part, initiatives like agri-clinic, agri-business centers, National Food Security Mission have given big boost to non-agricultural employment in rural areas. Now, see, we have said what are the non-agricultural employments in rural areas, first part, and then we talk about that certain schemes, certain areas have give boost to non-agricultural activities or non-agricultural employment in rural area. Okay, when I say rural area, again village and rural towns, they relate here. If I read this particular assumption, the quality of employment in terms of value creation is better in non-agricultural employment against the agriculture. So nowhere directly I have said about the quality of employment, right? If I see this particular statement, we are saying that there it has given boost to non-agricultural employment. Okay, but is it directly saying somewhere about key whatever non-agricultural employment is there does not have quality or lack quality? So this particular assumption cannot be made so clearly. Okay, maybe in part if I read this statement, so we may feel like that there is an issue of quality of employment in non-agriculture, but there is no clarity. So some might take it in a positive way, some might not take it in a positive way. So if I have to choose, I'll not say this is the assumption which has been made. Okay, so option A, one only, I'll go with, but it may happen, like there can be a conflict in this particular section. And again, if you look at RC, there are certain questions where we have conflict, right? Some of you might argue in some favor and some might have your arguments in other way around. Okay, so I'm not going with statement 2. Statement 1 is the only assumption I am going to make in this particular part. Next is which of the following best reflects critical message of the passage? So I'll go again in ulta way. Governments lack political will to implement strong policy initiative to ensure social justice in India. This is a statement against government. No government document will ever produce these type of statements, right? So again, this has not been said in the passage also, but I am just telling you as a rule, if you think or if you see something which is strongly against government, so refrain from that. Okay, so certainly this is not the message. Social justice cannot be implemented as the definition keeps on changing and government has to make changes continuously. Let's talk about social justice in this particular part. So here somewhere we are talking about that constitution has provided something regarding social justice, and here we are saying that successive governments in India have also made essential amendments to implement social justice, right? We are not saying that we have changed the idea of social justice. But if I read the first statement, the framers, they had thought well and in advance, right? So if I say they had thought well and in advance, so they knew what are the ideas of social justice. Okay, so definitely social justice cannot be implemented as the definition keeps on changing is not the correct way to assume or is the critical message. Considering the kind of diversity in India, the idea of social justice is an elusive dream. The very generic statement, nowhere we are talking in such a negative tonality. Establishment of social justice is an unfinished agenda and government is continuously working towards it. The successive governments in India have also made essential amendments to the constitution and brought legislative framework to ensure social and economic safeguards. So this is the statement which is directly telling you this particular part, right? Question number 75, with reference to the above passage, what are the assumptions which have been made? So again, I'll go in a reverse order. The mass media tend to favor the independent or third party candidates over a candidate from one of the two major parties. So if you look at the passage is saying the importance of two parties, major parties, has declined, and who is the who is the influencer? It is the mass media, right? But then passage also says, if we look at independent third candidates, that no independent third party candidate has won any important election in a recent year, right? So influence is of mass media, but is mass media supporting third party candidate? Has that been said, or can we make that assumption? Definitely not, right? So this is incorrect. The two-party system has contributed significantly to the stability of the American political system. So now it is talking about the stability part. A significant increase in the number of third-party candidates would have evidence of decline in the importance of two major parties. Now, maybe you will feel that this particular statement is correct. Okay. So we have to see the assumption. If I read this statement, but it is worth noting that no independent or third party candidate has won any important election in recent years, and in the last nationwide campaign the two major parties raised and spent more money than ever before in support of their candidates. So two things: one, no third party candidate has won; second, the two parties have spent more money than ever. Okay, so these are the two facts which I have here. So can I make this assumption? The significant increase in the number of third party candidates would have evidenced of decline in importance of the two major parties. Maybe or maybe not, right? Because if I read the second statement, what I see, the influence of money, or if I go to this statement, influence of mass media, these are the two important things on which who wins and who loses is being decided, right? So even if these third party candidates had won in a significant way, could I have said that it is the decline of two major parties? No. The assumption which I could have made, ki money is being spent by maybe third party candidates, or mass media is supporting this third party. These could have been the relations which we could establish, but directly saying that increasing third party candidates and there will be then decline in the major parties. So somewhere we cannot make directly that assumption, though it is near to the assumptions which can be made. So it is not so remote an assumption, but not the exact assumption we are likely to make. The amount of money raised and spent by political party is one valid criteria for judging the influence of the party. That is what this statement is saying, that third party candidate didn't win. And if you look at the other way around, when it comes to raising money, it is still the major parties who are raising money. Okay, so definitely that raising of money or the amount of money which is being raised and spent is telling you their influence. Okay, so 75A, and lastly 76 with reference to the above passage. Following assumptions have been made. Law should not restrict the behavior of the former government officials. Option A. Okay, then option B is head of the government institutes are typically people who have previously been high level government officials. Okay, nowhere the passage is saying that head of the governments are typically people who have previously been high level government officials. Low level government officials do not often become head. Nowhere again we have said that there is anything regarding low level officials. Now I got stuck between these two. Option D, high level government officials who leave government service are capable of earning livelihood only as head of some important institutions. Is that an assumption? Let us see. Now we are talking about conflict. Conflict of what? Conflict of high level government officials accepting position as head. They are not just accepting any position. What they are accepting? They are accepting position as a head. And that is where this particular statement becomes important. So are they capable of earning a livelihood only as a head of some important institute? Yes, they are capable of earning livelihood as a head of some important institute. But then I come across a problem. Can I made this assumption that they are only capable of earning a livelihood as a head of some important institutes? So that is where there is a confidence. That is why I said that I got stuck in two options. So I'll still keep this particular option. I'll come to first option. Law should not restrict the behavior of former government officials. Now, if I read this particular part, to prevent some conflict of interest, Parliament could prohibit high-level government officials from accepting position as head of important institutions for 3 years, so on and so forth. So that is being discussed, right? And then there is one more statement. One such official concluded, however, that such a prohibition will be unfortunate because it would prevent high-level government officials from earning a livelihood for 3 years. Okay, so if I read this statement again, so certainly there is a discussion that there should be some prohibition. So law should not restrict the behavior of former government officials. Is that the assumption which is being made? So definitely this is not the assumption which is being made in here. So that is something we are discussing, and we are saying that law should be there. Should there be some control? If I look at the tone of that particular passage, it is saying, yeah, there should be some control. So I'll go with statement D, though I have this particular hiccup here, right? So this might change meaning of the statement D, but definitely I'm not going with the statement A. So that was about question 76. So these were some questions from CSAT paper based on reading comprehension. Now I completely understand there are some questions where there can be difference in opinion. Okay, so please write it to me if you find that there are differences of opinion, and when it comes to reading comprehension, there will be 3-4 questions where our opinions might differ. Okay, so with that we will conclude. See you in next discussion. Thank you.